fear's not the end all and be all. I lived my life thinking that was like the only thing I knew. A whole bunch of stuff in my life made me afraid. It made me like not interact with the world. But like fear is there to like push you sometimes. If you get over it, like life gets better. For a while, I was just like, fear's over there and I'm gonna run away from it because why would anyone do that? And then I realized, going over that hurdle is actually like what life is. And you need to like do that. And then like everything that you wanted in life will happen. You just need to like find that hurdle and go over it instead of looking at the hurdle and being like, I'm going to sacrifice everything actually because I'm not willing to go over that.
Stories are powerful.
Welcome to the Rise, Recover, Live podcast, brought to you by The Phoenix. This is a space where people impacted by substance use can come to share their story of strength and resilience, get open and honest, and inspire hope and build community through shared experience.
We'll be talking to people in our community on their own recovery journey and shine a light on the topic of recovery in all its forms. Maybe you'll hear some of your story in theirs.
Let's show the world that together we rise, recover, and live.
Welcome, everybody, to yet another episode of the Rise, Recover, Live podcast. We are your hosts, Bryce III, he, him pronouns.
And Liz McKean, she, her pronouns.
What up, Liz? How you feeling?
I'm really good. I feel really good today. I'm in a good place. It's a sunny day outside. Got a person I'm excited to talk to. Yeah.
Oh, good.
No complaints.
That's beautiful.
How about you?
I am a lot of things. I'm definitely reeling still off of finally hearing your British accent, and it sounds nothing like a British accent, but you know, that's a great way to get the day started. Also, if you all are watching and you're seeing this cup as I'm drinking it, it's a pretty dope cup, and you might think that I'm drinking coffee, but I am not. I am 3 days now caffeine free, and I feel weird. So beyond that, I'm feeling great. I'm excited to see you soon. About to hop on a plane tomorrow to head to Denver for this conference that we'll be doing some live podcasting at. And
oh my gosh, can I tell you a story about the Denver situation?
Sure.
This is just like, it's, our guest is being so wonderful and patient. And one of the things he and I have in common is our generalized anxiety disorder diagnosis. And I have a person with anxiety, even under conditions that wouldn't necessarily warrant it. But I had a moment of very, definitely situational anxiety earlier this week because I moved to New York, as we've talked about in previous episodes. So in Florida, where I was, if you go and get a new license from another state or whatever, they print you out a license, there it is, bam, you're done. And in New York, and not realize that's not the case. So I was like, being a good little citizen, rule follower, you're supposed to get that new license within a certain amount of days, set our appointments at the DMV, and then we're finishing up. So 2 days ago, and the lady hands me my piece of paper that's like temporary New York license. That's literally just a paper with writing on it. And I was like, there's no license, like the picture, and you have to surrender your other one. And she's like, no, it'll be 2 weeks. I'm like, I have to get on a plane on Saturday. I'm like, I don't have another photo ID. My passport's expired. And she was like, oh, you should call the airline. Oh no. So just thought I was the stupidest person alive and felt horribly guilty because I was sure I wouldn't be able to get to Denver. And then I called the airline and I should be okay. I just have to bring every single document I have in my possession that says I am who I am.
Yeah, and go 8 hours early.
I do anyways. Yeah, I'm Looney Tune when it comes to that. So anyways, I will, see you there. It was iffy a few days ago.
Well, beautiful. I'm glad you got that out the way. And I'm glad you were able to sit with the anxiety that comes around that. Because I know I would feel super I don't even know if this is going to go. Especially the airport. If you're going to the airport in a way that you've never been to the airport before.
Yeah.
So first time I took the podcast equipment to the airport, it's at that point, I'm a pro. I can get through security in 2.5 seconds. But now I'm going through with airport security with this stuff, and I don't know if they're going to think it's a bomb. What's going on?
Right.
And I did actually get flagged one time, but I learned from it. But it's just let me go to the airport 12 hours early so that we can make sure if there's any road bumps, I still get to my destination on time. Lots of anxiety. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Proud of us.
So
we get to the airport a day early, but we make it through.
With all that being said, with our very patient guests, who do we have with us today? Liz.
Today we have my friend Andy Benckart, who I could not be more excited to be able to have this conversation face to face with. Andy and I have been, I think we decided it's been about a year of chatting on Instagram. Yeah, part of the sober community. Is going to talk to us a little bit about his story, which includes recovery, mental illness, like I already kind of hinted towards, and some really fun things, extreme sports in my opinion, that are just really fun to hear about. And he's been so patient and wonderful already. So Andy, welcome. Thank you for being here. How are you?
What up, Andy?
I'm good. I'm a little anxious. I also get to the airport like 4 hours early and sit at the gate, and I'm still anxious I'm going to miss my flight.
Right? Yeah. Do you like check the ticket like 100 times?
Yeah.
Like, am I at the right gate? Am I at the? Is it the right
It has
day?
to be a
Am I the right
printed
person?
ticket too, because that's just what I grew up having. I don't trust my phone.
I don't think you're alone.
I think so. My phone has glitched out on me a couple of times. I'm like, oh snap! I'm coming to the front of the line. Like, get it together. Delta app kind of messed up on me last flight, and I didn't know what to do. I was just about to lay on the ground and flail around. And we should probably
That's always a good solution.
we should probably link the Traveling While Sober episode to this episode too, just because of all this travel talk. If you have the opportunity to travel in sobriety and recovery, this may be some of the stuff that comes with it, or maybe this isn't your experience at all, but we have a specific episode that you can tap into and hear how me and Liz, beyond what we spoke about today, have been able to navigate moving around so much.
Yeah. Even with that little thought in the back of our heads, it's just like, am I doing something wrong? Am I in trouble before you even get there?
So Andy, like, what happens when you lose the paper ticket?
I've only lost it once, and it was a nightmare for me. I got so anxious, and then I went up to the gate, and they're like, oh, we can just print you another one. Like, you're past security. And I'm like, wait, really? I thought you were going to, like, take me out of the airport or something.
I was looking for the guy to come from the back and put me in a headlock. Like, oh no. It's so interesting. And I'm ready to like super dig into this conversation and see how you've been able to navigate life and how you've been able to use, surfing and all these these things to contribute to your life. So I just got a call. I was talking to my girl the other day, and she had called me, and Amazon was supposed to drop off a package in my crib. And the date that it was supposed to drop it off was like the day before she called, and I didn't get the package. And she gasped. And like, I'm just like turn down. Like, I'm just so quick to be like, everything always works out. Like, I've had so many situations where a package either is lost or it's not, but 9 times out of 10, it's not. It got jumbled up somewhere and it ended up here on a different date. But like, just little things like that, or airport things, or everyday things, depending on like our spiritual state, they may cause a certain amount of anxiety, or they may allow for our inherent wisdom to kick in, and that wisdom comes from actually having these experiences, right? So, all right, let's dig in. Tell me, where you're coming from, what your experience has been, what recovery means to you, your whole life.
I'll try to sum it up in a way that is a good story. I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Steelers country. I like
Shout
to
out
call
Wiz Khalifa.
Yes, Wiz Khalifa and Mac Miller also grew up there. I like to call it a drinking town with a sports problem. So I grew up just outside, kind of dead steel town vibes. Not currently. It's a very nice city now. There's been, I like going back because there's stuff to do. But when I grew up, it was just kind of like small town vibes. Steel was long gone. Wasn't much to do. My mom is from like Long Island, New York. So I spent a lot of time up there. And the question I was probably going to get is, how is a surfer from Pittsburgh? Well, I would just go up to Long Island and be addicted to the ocean. So I spent a lot of time up there surfing. It's where I learned to surf. And I just like remember coming back to Pittsburgh. I already felt out of touch the classic alcoholic way, but being a surfer in a landlocked state sure doesn't help. Grew up with migraines. I wasn't sure which came first, the anxiety disorder or the migraines, chicken and the egg scenario. I can't tell if I was naturally anxious and then the migraines led to it or vice versa. And I think I just slowly started to get more and more disconnected from myself and others as I grew older. I always like to say that like my first addiction was the ocean. And then since I didn't have that all the time, I found video games after that. And then about 18, or 16, I found alcohol and I was like, oh, this is much more efficient than either of those things. I moved to Florida to go to college where Liz used to live. I was in Eckerd College in St. Petersburg. I went there because it was a party school and my alcoholism was kind of like really kicking in before I even realized it, because that like drove me. There was a party, like a huge party the day that I went and visited, and I was like, this is the place for me. Not realizing that was my like alcoholic part of my brain talking.
How could you? You were a kid. I mean, that's the age where it's like celebrated, you know? Like I went to college and wasn't a drinker yet, and they were just like, just wait.
Yeah.
You know, and lo and behold, it's a lot to ask of someone to recognize it that early on.
And before that, I wasn't really like a partier. I was pretty socially isolated even before that. And then I thought alcohol was my solution to my like underlying anxiety of like talking to people and like everything else. And I like to say that like I didn't really have a slope to my addiction. It was a cliff. It started instantaneously. I went from not drinking to drinking handles every weekend on my own. And then it progressed very fast. I say the good and bad part of my addiction is that I like sped run it. So from 16 to 22, I essentially went through the entire like addiction cycle, partially because of my like underlying mental illness already. I tried to drink and use other drugs, like I used Molly a lot because that's what I thought drinking was supposed to feel like, which isn't great when you have an anxiety disorder because it messes up your brain even more. And it just kind of slowly ate away at me mentally and physically. And then at 22, I was living in DC. I was like kicked out of school. I kind of didn't have anything at that point. I knew I was like very close to going out one night and doing a drug that I could either get unlucky and not take back or get much more addicted to something. And just, I felt like I didn't have any dice rolls left. And I like tried to stop multiple times on my own. I remember pouring out like the rum that I had like 7 times. And then I'd go the next day and buy it again, which is the insanity of it. And I can like, it gets me a little emotional every time, but I remember the day that I like wanted to change. I woke up and I was like, you're gonna die. Like you need to do something. And then from there, I went to wilderness program and ended up in Maine many years later. Just kind of got lucky and asked for help. And I think I like had that moment of like clarity that's talked about in the rooms at a young age. And I was lucky enough to listen to it the one time I had like space to do it. And my life has changed like exponentially since then.
I love how you use the terminology, you speed ran. you did a speed run of the experience. And it's super interesting too, because we've had quite a bit of young recovery on here, but it's this thing that happens where it's like, there's just that extra bit of, am I though? Because like, isn't this just normal? Isn't this just like par for the course for like my age? I got sober at 24. And I remember an experience that I had where before I turned 21, like I'd been buying liquor from the liquor store since I was like 16. And so I went to the liquor store that I've been buying liquor from. And it was like 2 months before my 21st birthday. And I was trying to cash a check. And I couldn't cash a check anywhere else. So I was like, last resort, I got to cash it here because I don't know where else to cash it at. And I give him my check, and he asks for my ID, and I give him my ID, and he looks at it and gives me this goofy look like, you're not 21 yet? I'm like, bro, like, you know that. Like, I ain't even had hair on my face when I came here. Like, don't play me like that. And then he wouldn't give me alcohol for 3 months until I turned 21. And it was, that's the weird experiences that we have when, we started like 14, 15. And it could be looked at as a speed run, but I think that's quite a bit of time of like struggling and suffering and pouring out rum and then going back the next day and going to get some more, when you got sober, like, was there any of that, like, was there any question, or was it just like, no, for sure, this is got to be it for me?
I think the first time through, there's like a question because I like thought I could perfect my way through AA and like getting sober and like my obsessive need to do everything correctly. And that's not sobriety. Like, sobriety done well is sobriety done imperfectly. Like, I thought I was going to come into AA and be like, I can do the steps better than anyone.
I'm going to get AAA plus is what I'm going to get.
I can go to therapy better than anyone. And that's like my alcoholic brain talking, which I didn't understand, that it's just like a deeper symptom too of like that ego talking. So I got my first attempt of like sobriety, I got a year and a half from 2018 to 2019, but it was mostly white knuckling it. Like, I didn't really understand how like desperate it was. I thought because I was cleaning up other parts of my life that I was fine. And I fell into that trap of like, oh, the outside looks good. Like, maybe my insides are different now and I can go back out. And that
all better.
And that didn't work. And I had a one night relapse and I was like, oh my God, like I literally have no control. What am I doing? Like, I called my sponsor the next day and I told him, and I was like completely honest. And I was like, okay, I'm done. Like, what am I doing? Like, this is going to end up the same way. Like, I thought I could beat it, but some things you just have to like live with. And that's kind of where I like had my like quote unquote like first step, like true first step, where I was like, oh, not only can I not control drinking, I cannot control like a whole lot of other things too. And I have to be like, okay with that.
Yeah. And even in that, I know in the forum that you sent in about more about yourself so that we would have a reference point for the conversation, you had mentioned like leaning into the extremes to find the middle ground. And nobody ever in life has ever done that before, But this sounds like a bit of that, at least for me. I can relate a lot to it, where it's like, boom, like clean all this up, and then now we're good. What other ways did you find yourself like leaning all the way in and like going crazy and digging into the extreme? And how did you find that evening out over your experience?
So in this, like, now I've been sober for 4.5 years. I'm coming up on 5 this summer.
Nice.
A lot of it is just like, I know my brain wants to go to the extremes, but I need to go to the extremes to like, I see it as like both ends. So I'm like very like high performance and I want to do all these things, and that's great. And that pushes me forward, but that doesn't take care of me too. Like, so I have to be extreme in taking care of myself too. Like, I get 8 hours of sleep, like every night, no question. I like take days off from working out, no question. I eat well, like no question. And that like can bring this side of me that's like always wanting to do the crazy things. I surf year round in Maine, so I had to be able to like handle a lot on that end. But on the other hand, I can get to the middle because I'm also taking care of myself to the extreme level. Like, I go to therapy, I go to meetings, I sponsor people, I do all these things, and that brings me more to like a middle.
Well, Well, and it's like you're able to distinguish. Gosh, I was just having this conversation today with a therapist actually, about kind of the different, I mean, for lack of a better way to describe it, and I wish I had a better way, but like the different voices that happen in our heads. I was like, every single decision I make, I'm filtering through, is this the, kind of like the addiction version like of me that's talking? Is this me? Or is this like, there's like several different parts of me. Is this like the self-sabotage? Is this, which who am I kind of hearing here? Is this the self-care? Because they all can sound the same. It's all in my voice, and kind of being like, this feels like the right choice, but I've been fooled before, and kind of being like, all right, I really want to go hard here. I've gone hard here before, but for a different reason. And then like being really intentional about that. And I think that's the key, is that ability to be honest with yourself and like doing things really intentionally and recognizing like, I like extremes. Like I also want to have joy in my life, and like do cool things and go hard. And, you've said like, a perfectionist, and you have things that make you feel like you, and knowing the why behind that. I feel like that's really a cool thing. And owning it when when you realize that you would have done it differently if you could do it again. I mean, everything from the relapse that you mentioned to, if you do like go hard, if you do something that you're like, I wish I hadn't made that choice, but let me talk about it. Let me like be really real about it. I've seen you do that on Instagram even, and I think that's really a powerful thing. I love that what you said in our like preparation for this, that you've been in recovery for 6 years, sober for 4 years. Because like that all counts, like you've been on the journey for that whole 6 years. Like that was a powerful thing that happened within there that still is part of your recovery. And I love that ability to just like know yourself and continue to get to know yourself.
So one of our passions is, once we learn something, we have that desire to give it away with people with similar lived experience. And that was the same concept with me as well too. Learning these holistic healing practices that's been so powerful and instrumental in my own life. Just being in recovery, we want to give back. We want to share what we learned. And it may resonate with some people. It may not resonate with some people. And that's okay. But the people that can resonate with, have them to try it out and see if it works for them. If it doesn't work, that's cool. If it works, that's cool. And it's just trying something new and being open to experiencing something. I think it's so powerful for us, and having that desire to really hold space for people to utilize this practice and figure it out what works best for them. It really became my passion, and really sharing this to different people from all walks of life throughout the United States.
What you just heard was a clip from episode 22 with one of my favorite people in the world, Kelvin Young. As you all know, it is the season for gratitude, and we wanted to take this opportunity to lift up the volunteers within the Phoenix, because the Phoenix cannot run without volunteers.
So to Kelvin and all of our volunteers who give so much of themselves all year round, we want to give a big thank you to all of them. And if you would like to become a volunteer at the Phoenix, we'd be so grateful for you. You can download the Phoenix app, and after you've attended one class or event, you can start the process to become a volunteer. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, so like surfing year round in Maine, though, like
We need to go back to that.
because I'm on
Maine, like Google winter in Maine if you're not familiar.
Like, what is going on with that? Like, and why?
So for me, I think surfing was always the part of me that I like loved, that I lost during my addiction. Everyone has one thing that makes them feel like they're present, and surfing has always been that for me. And there's a lot of aspects to that. I say surfing, I have a lot of like new surfer friends up here that are getting into it, and I'm like, surfing is a sport of your lifetime, and it's also a sport where to do it correctly, you have to be emotionally, physically, and spiritually connected, because you're connecting to the ocean, you're connecting to yourself, and you also have to be present, because it's not, it's still risky. Like, I've been doing it for a while, and there's still times where I get into situations and I'm like, this is really hairy, and why am I doing this? And I have those thoughts still, but for me, it's because when I'm in the ocean, regardless of how cold it is, or like I'll be in like 2 feet of snow and changing into my wetsuit. When I get in the water, I'm like present no matter what. And I think it's partially because of like the sport itself, but partially just because that's like what spoke to me. Like that was beyond, like, I could be into 100 other sports, but that just ended up being the sport that like talked to me.
Yeah.
And I go out and I see it a lot, like meetings, in a way that like the ocean gives me things that I need. Like I'll go out and be like very egotistical and be like, I'm really good, and then I get my like butt kicked bad. And then there's days where I'm like really in my head and really hard on myself, and then I'll get a wave and be like life's okay, you're good, like. And I find that it's just been like another way to connect to community. It connects to myself. Like there's a surprising amount of sober surfers in Maine, so like I can have like meetings in the water, just talking to random people.
That is insane.
And then I think it's just been a way to like connect to myself and others, and also practice like another form of recovery. And everyone has their form of like extracurricular recovery.
I think, but I also think that maybe listening to this episode might plant the seeds to like finding out what that thing may be, you know, because I'm hearing it, and for me, yes, like, and I still don't even have a language for it. Like, it started off as music, but like now it's like communication, whether that be like through music or podcasting or like doing a talk, being a keynote speaker. Like and there's times where I go out there like you were like, Liz has been on a call with me where I'm like, I'm really good at this, like, you know, and then I go out there and things don't go the way that I wanted them to. And I'm like, okay, I got to humble myself. Like there's ways that I need to show up and have humility. And then there's days where it's like, man, like I'm a nervous wreck because it's like, you know, things aren't going the way that I would want them to. And you know, we just had this program in New York where like the sound, I'm learning how to do this audio video stuff, and the sound is weird. And then it ended up going perfectly, and I was able to like record and then hop on the stage and perform and connect with the audience. And afterwards, I'm like, I don't even know what I was tripping for. Like I'm like, life is cool. Like life is supportive. Like that's my craft. But I think that's the beautiful thing about the Phoenix, where like, here goes a sampler platter of things that you can test the waters and see, like beyond like staying sober, but not to say that a program or anything else like by itself is just staying sober, because within that, like there's this increased quality of life. There's this encouragement for service, you know, to be of service. And that can, you know, I've seen that alone. Like people could just go to meetings or do whatever their recovery pathway is, and like their lives blossom, their relationships increase, the relationship with their self increases, the opportunities for service increases. But to like have that intersectionality of like this thing that I really love to do, and that speaks to me in such a way that as I get better at it or seek to get better at it, I have a deeper understanding of life. And like you said, like there's a lot of new surfers out here that are looking to get into it, and you're damn near mentoring them, because you're telling them like, look, chill out. This is a sport for your life. You you might be getting frustrated now, but you'll be doing this for a while. And then you're having meetings in the water. I hope it's not the winter water, but it's the water regardless, right? So it's just like this it's like a handshake with life in a way that I think that can go missing if we don't intentionally seek it. And I think just listening to this episode may plant those seeds, because I don't know, I can't say for sure because I've only been me, that everybody has this.
I think one of the things that is so unique about this as your thing, because I totally agree with everything that Bryce just said about how critical it is to like find those things that fill you up, that teach you about life, that allow you to connect and both receive and give. This one in particular, and we've heard other folks talk about surfing and recovery. We had a cool episode with that a while back that I think you and I had talked about. There's so much uncertainty. Like there's so much that you're not in charge of. I mean, like always in every single thing we do, that's the case. But like big time with the ocean, you know, and with the weather and all these things. And, you know, you've talked about, like you've mentioned like mental illness a couple of times and, you know, anxiety and OCD as well. And talk about having your thing be a thing that you have to really accept what you cannot control. How do those things work together? Because clearly they do.
I think for me, I think I didn't understand it as a kid, but that like letting go is like a big part of surfing. And then when I got into recovery, I was like, oh, this is like a little bit easier because I kind of understand that concept. Like when you go into the water, you essentially just have your board, and then the rest is not up to you. Like beyond maybe if you're just like performing well that day, like certain waves come in, like you can just get unlucky. It's called like getting caught inside, where you just like take a bunch of waves on the head. And I think now that I've like started to understand myself more, it is a practice of like, oh, you have to let go of like all these things. Because when I'm on land, I will obsess over everything and be anxious over everything. But in the water, you can't, because like you have to be present. And I think it comes back to me later because like I was very anxious before this and like started to obsess over it. And then I was like, oh, okay, like you'll be fine. Like that's like recovery and the ocean teaching me like, okay, it might go like not the way you planned. It might be like out of your control. Most of life is out of your control, not just with me using, but like sometimes my emotions feel like I'm out of my control. Like emotional sobriety is like a big piece for me because I wake up and I'm like, well, it's just going to be one of those days and like, let's roll with it. So just like, I think it helps in like understanding that deeper piece of like, okay, like let go. Whatever happens in the water, like you're going to enjoy it, even if you get whooped pretty bad, like, but you're there, like you're present. Like that's at the end of the day, that's all what most people ask from you too, is that you're present and authentic with them. And like, that's all the ocean asks of you most of the time, is that you're present and authentic with it. And like, I always say like to my friends that get like a little bit too like gung-ho about it, I'm like, the ocean will like provide eventually. Like I'll sit here and wait and I know a wave will come, like it always does. And that's kind of how life has been too. Like I worked in treatment for a few years. It wasn't like what I wanted to do, but I was like afraid of moving on and doing all these things. And then I was like, oh, okay, you're going to have to like let go and make a change, and like everything else will work out. Like it doesn't feel like it's going to sometimes, but it always will. Like you might take a little bit of a beating on the way, but it'll like work out. And now I'm in like grad school and getting closer to the thing that I like want to do. And I think it can like counter those voices in my brain that are like both in sobriety and in the ocean that are like, this is all going to be bad and you're going to think about it all day. And then I'll like talk to people or show up as myself or go surfing. And then I'm like, okay, everything's actually fine. Like these are just the voices in your head telling you that things might not be okay, even though you have a lot of data now that says otherwise. Like maybe you should lean into that instead of whatever your brain's telling you. That was kind of a long-winded answer, but
no, it was crazy. Yes.
Perfect.
So I don't know if we say this a lot. I think we should probably say it more, Liz. But like people come on the show and they're like, I'm anxious to be on the show. I haven't done podcasts like that before. But it's like, I'm anxious too, bro. Like, what did you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't, we're just creating community and I'm leaning into what it is that I've been called to do. But a lot of times, like, I come to this show, like, needing stuff that I don't even know I need, but then, like, a guest will open their mouth and it's like, oh my goodness, like this is the medicine that I need right now. You know, so everything that you share, and I don't know if it's y'all surfers or what, but like it's
Very wise.
super, super poetic. And yeah, like, no, I can 100% relate. There's some things I'm experiencing in my life right now where it's like there's a transformation going on. And all of those tools that you just spoke about are needed. Another tool that's needed is the ability to not like take myself and my situation so seriously. And before we got on this episode, you were talking about like your love for memes. And I know Liz has talked about like the Instagram relationship. So like what's going on there? Like, do you post memes? Like, what's up with that?
Yeah. So I was like I was working full time COVID, like pandemic. I like couldn't see friends. My family was in Pittsburgh, working in like residential treatment. So it's like pretty intense. I was dealing with like clients and also like having the pandemic like over our heads, but like nothing was really changed in my life. And I just realized that like people were connecting through Instagram, and sometimes Instagram isn't authentic and like you don't actually show yourself. And like the little rebellious kid in me was like, well, I don't want to do that anymore. Like, F this. I'm going to be like me, which is like make a lot of jokes and do a lot of bits. And like, that's why like people show up. It's because they can connect to you. And I started to just be like, okay, like a lot of things are serious. Like, why are we taking Instagram seriously when like a bunch of stuff's looming over us? Like, let's have a laugh and like move on. Like, because that was what I was going to have to do every day. So I just started posting memes and it like caught on locally. And then I just became known as like, you just post memes on your story. And I was like, yeah, like, why not? What's stopping you? Like, I connect with people through it, and like people reach out to me and connect in other ways. And I post about like my recovery, and like I'll post recovery memes too, and people will connect. And it just became a way of, one, I think, dropping the facade that we all have sometimes. And two, also like jokes are a great way to connect. Like for a while, I didn't know how to connect with people unless I was doing a bit or a joke. And I went the like tortured comedian route for a little bit before I got sober. And I was like, stand-up's actually going to fix me. So there's a part of me that like also knows I connect through humor. And I just started posting memes and not taking everything so seriously. And it kind of like picked up. And I think, yeah, there's a lot of like bad in social media, but if you have like good intentions and you like actively are looking to connect with people, like you'll find them. Like I'm pretty active online and have like met a lot of great people that are like way outside of my Phoenix sphere. Like, because I'm just going to follow them. Who cares? Like, none of this matters anyway. Like, we've all been out of hell. We all got sober. So like, why are we taking Instagram seriously? Like, let's just do this.
Yeah.
And like, life's fun and interesting and also sometimes sucks. So like, let's do it all together, even though we're like thousands of miles apart, and like make jokes.
And it's needed too. Like I feel like at the bottom of some of the most intense suffering is like a floor that once it breaks is like a chuckle.
Yeah.
and I need that in my life. And you know, I agree with what you're saying about social media. I think I've often looked at it like fire, where you could burn the village down or it could light the way. One of the coolest stories I have with Instagram is I found a dude who was doing some tattoos, and I'm like, these tattoos are sweet. I'm a black dude, so like he was doing like a lot of color stuff, and like I didn't, like I knew I couldn't get one of his tattoos, but I just followed him and like, yo, these tattoos are great. And then one day I just like it just came over me like I gotta say something to dude. Like, yo, so I reached out to him like, yeah, your tats is awesome. Like I really rock with your art. And he hit me back like, yeah, you know, I rock with your music. Like, and then we ended up, he ended up sending me something, and we collaborated on a music song. The song Lost that I have is actually produced by him. And I met him in Chicago when he came through on tour. And tatted me up. So he actually got me together with a couple tats.
I have a few, Bryce.
I see. So that's, I'm about due for one too. But then he was like, when I met him in Chicago, he's like, yeah, if you ever end up in Montreal, like, hit me up. And little did he know he would be the reason that I would go to Montreal. So, and this is a relationship that started on a social media site. And so it's like, oh, this can expand my network. This can expand my life's opportunities, you know? And it also I can go down a rabbit hole and like hate myself after looking at everything that everybody else has accomplished in life. And I'm not doing nothing but sitting here on Instagram. So it's just like, you could light the way or you could burn the village down. And I think it's that conversation with ourselves that let us know what's important in our lives right now. For me, social is like consuming social is very much so not important. Like I have to have the blinders on right now. But in other seasons, like it's been important for me to see what other people are doing because it gives me a reference point for like what can be done. So it's just, I agree though. Humor, I'm going to follow you. So if I don't follow you already, I'm going to follow you when we get off this call. But as we are nearing the 40-minute mark on this episode, I just want to thank you for showing up and sharing your story so transparently and so honestly. And I feel better because of this conversation. I feel like I have some clarity on some of the stuff I've been experiencing. And just want to thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been like, I joined the Phoenix like, I think 6 years ago because they had an event in Portland. And then just like, I had the CrossFit bug for a while. And then like, I still kind of do on the side. It's a little side obsession. But I'm just glad that I found like a place where I can be sober and also do these like, I started rock climbing because I saw people in the Phoenix doing it. And I was like, well, I'm going to try that. Like, that seems interesting and exciting. Like,
and why not?
And just like, I think it's great to find a place that I can be sober and also be in other spaces. Because it's hard to like, again, like getting sober young, it's hard for me to be sober in a lot of spaces because most people are still out and about. Like, I like being able to go into gyms or go into climbing gyms or anywhere and just like know that there's people like me and I can be social and not have it be like meetings are great and save my life, but like sometimes you need to like not have like true structure like meetings do, which are very like share, speaker, da 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 da. Like sometimes I just want to talk to people and like do a thing, and the Phoenix is great for that. Like that's what living life is, right? We're just all excited to like the next time we can talk to people and do a thing that we enjoy. And I'm just happy that I like have met you both and like decided to walk into the gym as a like 22-year-old like anxious kid and found the Phoenix.
I think it's so funny because so much of what we've talked about and everything that both of you have said, I just keep thinking it's like riding a wave.
Yeah.
It's like waiting for that next. I'm like everything. I feel like surfing could just be in the ocean, just be a metaphor for so much, and we use it for such like metaphors for so much. And you're out there doing it physically and also riding the waves of life and knowing that they're going to keep looking different, but they're going to keep coming, and and trusting that it's going to be exactly what we need, because so far that's what it's been. Why would it be anything else?
There's a certain amount of surfing metaphors that you can use if you don't actually surf. So like you might be close to hitting your
I'm probably pretty close. I'm going to keep pushing the limit though. I'm going to lean into the extreme of my surfing metaphors. You just wait.
Well, cool. We did it, Liz.
We did it. Yeah, I know. And Andy, again, like we've been talking for so long on Instagram, enjoying your fun and funny content, and then also getting to know you personally, just messaging, and now to be able to have this conversation and the joy of being able to share this conversation with the rest of the community is just something that I'm so grateful for. So appreciate you. And actually, Bryce, we got to do the question. We haven't done it.
We haven't done it in a while. I wasn't going to do it, but you brought it up, so now you got to do it. Do it.
I'm going to do it. Andy, so if you could peel back layers of time, I was going to try to make it a surfing metaphor and I can't. I lost it. I think I hit my quota.
That takes a lot of time in the water, and then it just becomes natural.
Shoot. Yeah. Oh, let's go paddle back in time. To a previous version of Andy, and just send some words of wisdom from the Andy that you are today to the Andy that you were once before. What might those words be?
I think for me is that like fear is not the end all and be all. Like I lived my life thinking that was like the only thing I knew was like fear, and I couldn't like be okay with it. Being anxious all the time, like migraines, a whole bunch of stuff in my life, like made me afraid. It made me like not interact with the world. But like fear is there to like push you sometimes, and like if you get over it, like life gets better. Like for a while, I was just like, fear's over there, and I'm gonna run away from it because why would anyone do that? It's like scary and life's hard. Like why go over that hurdle? And then I realized, going over that hurdle is actually like what life is, and you need to like do that, and then like everything that you wanted in life will happen. You just need to like find that hurdle and go over it, instead of looking at the hurdle and being like, I'm going to sacrifice everything actually because I'm not willing to go over that.
So good.
Damn it, Andy. You giving me all the medicine today, man. All the medicine.
I know it.
And I think I wasn't even going to ask the question. That's okay.
I know. I'm so glad. I had a feeling. I was like, these words of wisdom just keep coming. I'm gonna squeeze out one more. I feel like our editor, who we adore, by the way, is gonna have trouble figuring out what little gem to put at the front of the episode. So it's got a lot of beautiful ones to choose from. Well, Andy, if folks do want to connect with you, or if there's any other resources that you'd like to share, please take a moment to shout them out now.
So if you want a random collection of memes, my Instagram is Steel City Surfer, because I grew up in Pittsburgh and I'm a surfer, and I chose it when I was 15 and I haven't looked back.
Stick with it.
And working to be a therapist, so maybe down the road, if you have any therapy questions, that's also where you can find me.
Awesome. One-stop shop. I love it. Easy peasy. Yeah. We'll definitely link that in the show notes. And thank you. Thank you for being here, Andy. Thanks for being the co-host with the most, Bryce. It just came up with that. And thank you to everybody who's listening. We're so grateful that you're here. Please do subscribe. Please give us a rating if you feel so inclined to do so. Share this episode. It is one to share for sure. And we will catch you next time.
Catch you next time. Oh yeah, if you listen on Apple Podcasts, they changed the thing from subscribe to follow. So it don't matter what you do, just press the dang button and
press the dang button
and tap in. We love to continue to invite more people to the community and have these conversations. We have them every week, and we love that you're here. And bring a friend next time. Catch you later.
Heck yeah. See ya.
So now you're excited. Bryce, Liz, how do I get involved with the Phoenix? Well, my friend, it is super simple. We actually have an app. Head over to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, or look in the show notes of this podcast, wherever you're listening to or watching this podcast, and go download the Phoenix app.
The Phoenix app makes it so easy to find classes that are near you, or to access our virtual class schedule where you can hop on from the comfort of your home. You can also join our groups and have a conversation with someone from the Phoenix community from anywhere in the world. Please make sure that you join the podcast group where you can connect with Bryce and I and other listeners. Everything that you need is in the show notes. You can also head to our website at www.thephoenix.org. And maybe while you're there, you click the volunteer tab and get even more involved.